Will Anderson Jr., Nico Collins, and the Houston Texans take on Josh Hines Allen, Trevor Lawrence, and the Jacksonville Jaguars in a massive AFC South showdown. Now, of course, the major storyline for this game is going to be the absence of CJ Stroud, a violent helmet to the ground contact that knocked him out of the rest of the game against the Denver Broncos, and it really costed them. That defense held on to that game as long as they could before ultimately they fell the game-winning field goal. Davis Mills did his darndest to try and get them back in it. We've talked about the entire season on this Blitz with Blender show is that this Houston team, they've struggled so much trying to establish an identity running the football. They still gave the ball to Chubb 11 times, Woody Marks 10 times, but it was not enough. This team did not look anything like the offense that we saw earlier in the game. Just being able to get up, 12-7 overall on the day. And in the second half, only mustering 3 points. And then Denver, just a little bit too much overall. They were able to limit J.K. Dobbins somewhat, only 60 yards on the ground. Bo Nix killed him a couple times with his legs. But overall, if you're a Houston fan, you're not feeling like this is too daunting of a matchup against Jacksonville, a team that, frankly, you would feel that you should beat by 6 or 7 points if CJ Stroud were available. Now, what has been one of the largest concerns for Houston throughout the entire season has been their ability to protect the quarterback. Stroud got sacked twice. Davis Mills got sacked twice, and they were only able to get to Bo Nix one time in that game. For Jacksonville, this is a pass defense as well as a pass rush that is one of the more dynamic units in the league. Trayvon Walker as well as Josh Hines Allen getting after the quarterback. You would think that these guys would have a lot more production. That hasn't been the case. You know that they are actually last in the league in sacks. Say that again. The Jacksonville Jaguars, with a former number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines Allen, one of the better edge players, they only have 10 sacks on the season, and we're halfway through the year, and Houston hasn't been great getting after the quarterback this season. They've only got 17 sacks overall in the year. That's to say that I don't think that the pass rush is a major factor in this game for either team. Now, Houston can have a better chance in it if Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter play like to their standard and their potential and wreak havoc on this game. But for Jacksonville, this is going to be a rushing attack. This is going to be something that's been quite similar to the way they've looked throughout the entire season. Look, Travis Etienne probably gets 23 or 24 carries. He got 22 against the Raiders. He went for 84. Bracial Tootin out of Virginia Tech, he got 9 carries and a touchdown. And then Trevor Lawrence, like the entire season, he's taken his opportunities to be decisive and run the football. Passing the football, look, he struggled to do that throughout the entire year. He's been inconsistent with accuracy. He had the interception. It was a day where he was pretty badly outshined by Geno Smith, who had a great day over 75% completion percentage, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns overall. But then that was a Vegas team that wasn't able to run the football as well as Jacksonville maintained time and possession. And I'm going to say that this is going to be kind of a tight game. I've got a lot of faith in this Houston Texan defense, still one of the better units in football. They've done a good job of time and possession, but then again, the Jacksonville Jaguars have. So what gives in this game? And you've got two teams. The Texans are 3rd in time of possession. Jaguars are 4th. How can Houston protect themselves? It's going to be the run game, but I don't have faith in that. So that's why I'm leaning towards the Jacksonville Jaguars at the win on the road. CJ Stroud throughout the season, he'd been hit so many times, struggled to have time and navigating the pocket, which has led to a little bit of accuracy issues throughout the year. And then, of course, the lack of a true number 2 wide receiver to get the football to. When Nico Collins hasn't been able to be that guy and he'd been covered, he'd been looking for Dalton Schultz, who'd really been that number 2 guy. He had a decent day against Denver, 6 catches for 77 yards. But you were expecting something like Christian Kirk or Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, the 2 kids out of Iowa State that you drafted, and they wind up just not being the type of factors you thought. Your 2nd and 3rd round pick in the draft, you're investing heavily into that type of capital, and it just hasn't showed up on the field for a product that you're proud of. For Jacksonville, I mentioned Etienne, that it runs through him. There's the news for Brian Thomas Jr., of course, the first-round pick out of LSU 2 years ago. This is a guy that's been embattled throughout his career a little bit so far. He's dealing with, it's a very weird phrase to say, but it's low-grade, high ankle sprain. So he's dealing with that currently right now. It does look like he will be a go. Liam Cohen, he is an offensive coordinator, He's a head coach with an offensive play calling duties, and he's the type of guy that I think maybe has a little bit of a pulse saying, hey, Brian, are you able to go in this game? We're going to need you, my guy. We're going to need you to be a factor. I don't like the fact that a lot of people are so quick to jump on young talent, on rookies. Like Travis Hunter, for example, he's on IR with the knee injury, and he's out for probably another 3 weeks. They call guys busts. Oh, Brian Thomas, he's a bust so far early in his career. Look, man, he's still got 3 years most likely to prove it out on this contract. 1 season for Travis Hunter through 7 games doesn't define who he is. Is he a generational talent? You're going to have to find out a little bit more. They took him highly. You're not going to learn everything in just 1 season. Same with Will Anderson Jr. He really exploded on the scene. I mean, a back-to-back defensive player of the year. Nobody is more hyped than this guy. Just because he hasn't put up ridiculous numbers this season, we're not talking about this guy negatively. I think he's been able to buy himself a little bit of stock with the fans because of a 6-sack season as a rookie, 11 sacks a year ago, and he frankly has been dominant this year. I'm speaking about him in a way that sounds like he hasn't been productive. Technically, he's actually on a better pace than he was last year. He looks like he's probably going to wind up with, 14, 15 sacks on the season. So he's actually probably outperforming the way he was last year. So that's the type of player that Houston fans had this expectation, though, for him to be the next Lawrence Taylor. And if you're going to expect a guy to be that, be prepared to have somewhat of your expectations not quite met. That's why I speak about Will Anderson not in that way. It's not like this guy is not a great football player and one of the best edge defenders in the league. It's just when you have that type of expectation and you take a guy 3rd overall and trade up for that, that's what you're working with. When I hear Houston fans talk about Will Anderson, they complain. It doesn't make sense. Or beat reporters go to Demeco Ryans. It's just sort of interesting how all of that shook out there in the recent press conference earlier, 2 weeks ago in the season overall. It's just something's just not quite sitting right fully in Houston. When you're losing, these types of things start to happen. This is a game against Jacksonville. I'm going to go with the Jaguars winning it 24-19. I've got a lot more faith in their run game to have a good amount of success and alleviate some of the pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. Also, Trevor Lawrence's legs, I believe, will be a large factor in this one. A player like Azeez Al-Shaair, he needs to do a good job in containing Trevor Lawrence, not allowing him to take off and scramble. Derek Stingley on the outside, most likely he's going to be aligned with, of course, Parker Washington, who's come on the scene really well. 8 catches for 90 against the Vegas squad. And then Brian Thomas being out on the field for sure. That's a type of player that he'll be matched up against. And then Kalen Bullock in the back end secondary. I've liked his play as a second-year guy. And then you add the elements that this Jacksonville team is sort of chasing the Indianapolis Colts at this stage right now. And they've got a road game. It just feels like a spot where if they had their quarterback, it's that important of a position they could win. But in this case against Jacksonville, I just don't see Houston having enough as an offense. I mean, if you're Jacksonville, you shut down Nico Collins and Devin Lloyd in coverage against Dalton Schultz. That really seems to be one of the key matchups in this game. But I look at Davis Mills. He's, I think, 5-19-1 as the starting quarterback. Frankly, that's about all you need to know as a statistic in this one. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars to win this game on the road. And unfortunately, this sort of ends the Texans' year. I know there's still a lot of football left, but 3-6, a loss there, dropping them to 3-6. This is still a must-win game within the South, trying to battle back, but with Stroud being out and then potentially out another week after this game, the season has been one that's been quite disappointing for Texans fans, and it looks like it's going to continue on that trend. Look, this was my pick to get to the AFC Championship game and play the Baltimore Ravens. I'm just as disappointed as a lot of people. I put a lot of attention on them and stock into them with what I thought they could be with these rookie wide receivers that haven't panned out fully. And then in offense, with the absence of Joe Mixon, that really just hasn't had any semblance of a good run game overall. So that's to say that if they didn't have a good turnover differential of being 5th in the league, and they've got, 9 interceptions, that's 4th in the league. But again, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been very opportunistic. They're 2nd in the NFL behind Chicago with interceptions. They're 3rd in the turnover differential margin, +8. So this is still a Jacksonville team. Doesn't turn the football over as little as they'd like to. They'd probably like to stay away from the turnovers, but again, they take a ball away so much. You can probably expect 2 picks from Davis Mills or 2-3 takeaways overall in this game. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this prediction. Do the Texans have a shot? Absolutely. But do you confidently think that they can win this game? And I just want to hear from you guys. It's my favorite part of making these videos. I appreciate you watching this Blitz with Blender video. Again, I'm Josh Blender, getting you set and ready for these NFL college matchups throughout this season and then beyond, of course, trying to build this brand out. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.